Kyle Deschanel, the Rothschild who wasn't. Part 5. A few months later, Andrea was at 514 Broome Street, she said, drinking and smoking cigarettes, when she blurted out that she'd heard so much about Deschanel's family, but had never met any of them. This is something that does happen with regard to a narcissist, that they'll make reference to people, but you never get to meet them. This is the compartmentalization of the narcissist, and is often done in certain instances because the family could cause a problem to control. The narcissist will talk about them because therefore they can control them, but you're not allowed to meet them. In some instances, the narcissist might actually be telling you untruths about the family, and therefore the narcissist ensures you can't meet these individuals. Andrea wondered why there weren't any pictures on the walls. Deschanel tapped at his phone and showed her a picture of his mother. It was Saki Dodelson. Then there was the global entry card. I happened to be over at his house looking for something, Tiny told me. He's like, it's upstairs somewhere. And so I'm upstairs and the pants are on the floor of the belt. I'm not snooping through drawers. It's literally his fucking pants on the floor that he just took off. I'm looking in the pocket, and his real global ID and his Amex are in there. His matching Amex. There, on the US Customs and Border Protection issued card, Tiny said she saw Deschanel's face. The name next to it was R.A. Dodelson. Here is an example of the narcissist's narcissism effectively being sloppy, that in order to nullify the immediate threat to control where she's asking for something, he just explains that it's upstairs somewhere, flippantly responding. And of course, in the process of searching, she finds information which shows that he's been using a different name. Situated 68 miles from downtown Manhattan, Lakewood, New Jersey is a city of about 135,000 people, roughly 2/3 of whom are Orthodox Jews. It's an inland area in Ocean County, and the air has the faintest hint of the beach in its aftertaste. The town is home to, and in many ways driven by, the famed rabbinical school Beth Midrash Govah, the largest yeshiva outside of Israel. According to locals and hometown news reports, BMG picks candidates for local office for the Haredim to support, controls hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate, and maintains a fundraising machine through its supporters. It's a billion-dollar operation. Like many such Orthodox enclaves, the town is by nature insular. Because no cars or electronics can be used on the Sabbath, everyone needs to live within walking distance from shul. Marriages are arranged, and meticulously so. The ambulances are staffed by volunteers, all married Orthodox men. But the Lakewood community also exhibits markers of upper middle class striving familiar to other New York area suburbs. Over the last decade or so, new luxury gyms with separate hours for men and women have popped up, as have high-end kosher restaurants and kosher liquor stores, which stock Casa Azul tequila and copious Glenfiddich blends alongside Israeli wines. We strolled into a grocery store with the scale and minimalist approach of a Whole Foods, but stocked entirely with kosher goods. The checkout line magazines were all about the Orthodox faith. Until very recently, according to sources and public reporting, R.A. Malkiel Dodelson, 36, was a practicing rabbi in Lakewood, New Jersey, where he lived in a home with his wife and child. He was the head of a local kollel, a group of married men who devoted their days to the study of the Talmud, making him a Rosh Kollel at the yeshiva. He was an advisor to the chief rabbinate of Israel in Jerusalem. Being a Rosh Kollel, it's like a dream for everyone. Henry, a high-profile Orthodox personality who spent years in Lakewood and was driving us around, explained, it's like wanting to play in the NBA. Dodelson was in demand, accomplished, a serious scholar of the ancient laws. He was invited to serve as a visiting rabbi at places like the Westside Institutional Synagogue on West 76th Street. He wrote several books, including a 201-page-long text about the laws that surround a Jewish woman's rights to leave a marriage. It was not something that's off the cuff or something. He took on a very hard, complex subject and did a very good job with it, said Riley, another resident of Lakewood who lived down the street from the Dodelson family. So he's definitely very learned and definitely brilliant. Dodelson hailed from one of the town's most important families. His mother, Saki, is a cousin of the Rosh Yeshiva Malkiel Kotler, the dean of the historic school's 8,000 students. He is the great-grandson of Aaron Kotler, who founded the yeshiva in 1943. Rabbi Malkiel Kotler is very powerful, Henry said. I don't know how much it affects Aryeh's life. I don't know how close they are. But if you're asking me to describe who Rabbi Kotler is in terms of Lakewood and what that might mean, well, he's as powerful as it gets. Rabbi Elchanan Pupko, the president of the American Israeli Jewish Network, who grew up with Aryeh Dodelson in Lakewood, likened Dodelson's life in Lakewood and the yeshiva to a relative of Jerry Falwell spending their college years at Liberty University, the Baptist college in Lynchburg, Virginia, once run by the powerful preacher and his family. The family was, by appearances, close. According to public records, Saki Dodelson owns the home that Aryeh Dodelson and his family lived in, which is immediately behind the house she shares with her husband. His sister, Gital Dodelson, lives next door. The Dodelson family has had brushes with the mainstream media in the past, something of a rarity for the community. In 2009, Gital had married an Orthodox man from Staten Island who came from another powerful rabbinical family. They separated soon after the birth of their son, and after a few years she tried to divorce him. In order to do so, she needed to get a document that under rabbinical law authorizes marriage's dissolution. When he refused, she went to the press. The New York Post ran her first-person account of the marital saga on the front page in 2013. The Orthodox are fiercely private, but I'm willing to air my dirty laundry if it means I can finally get on with my life, she wrote. The story went viral and Gital got her divorce a few months later, after pick-up from the Daily Mail, the Times of Israel, and an episode of This American Life called Stuck in the Middle, in which Aryeh Dodelson spoke with writer Mark Oppenheimer. Years later, friends of Kyle Deschanel's would listen to the episode and recognize the voice giving a scholarly opinion on ancient law. Since the Dutch landed in Manhattan in 1609, New York has had a soft spot for fabulists and operators. The place was built on a con when Peter Minuit bought the land rights from Lenape for 60 guilders. 400 years later, playing fast and loose isn't really even that discouraged. It's part of the DNA of the metropolis. Washington Irving wrote New York's definitive history under assumed name that falsely connected him back to the Dutch patroons, Diedrich Knickerbocker, the moniker of a fake member of a real 17th century Beverwyck family that also happened to have made up their surname out of thin air. Somewhere along the way, a Knickerbocker became what you call an authentic New Yorker. Records show that Aryeh Dodelson registered a company, the Rothschild Holdings LLC, from an address in Lakewood in 2018. It was around that time that Kyle Deschanel started showing up in Manhattan, though according to those who took an interest in his social trajectory, it would take him some time to make his way downtown. Tracy Sokad, the actor and model who knew him socially, said she'd been in touch with an ex-girlfriend who knew him as early as 2018. Same identity. He was Kyle Deschanel, Sokad said. He wasn't friends with any of these people. He wasn't part of the New York nightlife scene. The ex-girlfriend was like, he had no friends, and I always thought that was strange. The Rothschilds, the real ones, have several branches, each descended from one of the sons of the banking family's patriarch, Mayor Amschel Rothschild, who was born in 1744 in the Frankfurt ghetto, ascended to the court of Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse by selling rare coins to royal patrons, and innovated modern banking from there. To spread the business, he had his 5 sons establish bureaus in Frankfurt, Vienna, London, Naples, and Paris. There remain a lot of Rothschilds sprinkled throughout the global wealth class, enough that one's claims to be one might elide a smartphone search for a drink or two, and by then, hey, who cares? When Deschanel met Ernie Stern, he had matriculated into the club world and its more sophisticated crowd, and the de Rothschild-Deschanel story had grown and added texture. As Deschanel took bigger risks to support his Rothschild-sized lifestyle, his dealings began to unravel. After sending around the axiomatic deck to a number of potential investors in December 2021, it reached one person who was a bit confused. Wasn't Alex Michael, the hotshot co-head of growth at Linetree Capital, heading up the fundraising for Axiomatic? How did this tiny firm get a piece of the action? The person sent the Oxshot pitch to Linetree, who sent it to Axiomatic. Its founders were stunned. The deck was a fake, there were typos, the font size was off in places. The copy misevaluated exactly what Team Liquid did. Also, no one at the company had ever heard of Kyle Deschanel or Oxshot. According to a source, Axiomatic sent a cease and desist letter to Oxshot in December 2021 that instructed it to sign, acknowledging that the company had not been authorized to solicit funds on Axiomatic's behalf. Physical copies of the letter were returned to sender unopened in February 2022. Rejection, nullification of threat to control. But Axiomatic continued to pursue the matter. Oxshot later signed that April. Axiomatic also instructed investors who had seen the fake decks to delete the material and filed a complaint to the Office of the Whistleblower at the SEC in February 2022. Axiomatic promptly pursued relevant legal and regulatory channels upon discovering Oxshot Capital's conduct, a spokesperson said in a statement. This action was taken to protect not only Axiomatic's reputation, but the broader investment community. Patrick from the Toronto-based AI company told a variation on the Axiomatic story. We had no idea that Kyle was actively fundraising on behalf of us, Patrick said, adding that Deschanel had broken an NDA, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability, by circulating the company's pitch deck and its fundraising structure. What he was really doing was pitching the last 20% of the round with no intention of ever writing us a much bigger check and going there in an unimproved manner. So it appears that an individual from the Jewish community in Lakewood had made his way to Manhattan and had taken on a false identity and was conning people left, right, and centre, exhibiting a sense of entitlement to assume these different masks, exhibiting no emotional empathy for the impact that it would have upon people, conning them as to who he was, causing people to enter into intimate relationships with someone that they didn't actually know, taking money from people in circumstances that would be problematic for them, acting without accountability, utilising a range of different manipulations, showing grandiosity with a lifestyle that was being indulged in. We'll continue in part 6 with more information about Deschanel.